your Friday refresh brought to you by Collisions Auto Repair Services in Killen, Alabama. You can contact them at 256-272-2007. One of my favorite things to do as I drive is to listen to podcasts, but not any old podcast. I like true stories. I like stories of people who face hard things head on and find a way through it. One of the reasons we started the Helping Healing Humor podcast was for that very reason. And my love for these other kinds of podcasts started with a podcast that Travis put me onto. It was called A Short History Of, and it chronicles all sorts of interesting historical events, people, battles, or places. Usually those things included elements of difficult times for someone or a bunch of someones. Later, the host of the podcast began another one entitled Real Survival Stories. Each week, they tell of ordinary people caught in extraordinary situations where every minute and every choice could be the difference in life and death. I love to listen to these stories because it usually revolves around adventures like hiking or hunting, fishing or boating, marathoning, kayaking, or any number of other adventures that I've found myself enjoying at one time or another. I'm also intrigued at what people are capable of doing in situations they are capable of surviving. The body and the mind are incredible creations. Yet I've also noticed some themes running through the episodes, and I thought I might share some of those things I've learned as my mind has traveled with these survivors from the South Pacific Ocean to the Swiss Alps to the Arctic and to the desert. Sometimes the situations were of no fault of their own, while other times their carelessness has led them to be put in dire situations. So here are a few lessons. Number one, if you choose to do adventurous, or what some might call stupid, things, then make sure that you have someone with you. Many of the episodes find the adventurers alone in some pretty off-the-grid kind of places. When tragedy strikes, the first thing that they realize is that they are all alone. And the next thing they think is, how can I get in contact with someone who can help? But that's also a pretty good tip for life. Life is an adventure and oftentimes a difficult one. Don't do it alone. God created humans to be communal. We need each other. Sometimes there's a temptation to isolate, but isolation when life gets tough is usually a recipe for disaster. Have people you trust by your side. Number two, have the right equipment. It never fails that there is some very important item that's been left in a vehicle or at the bottom of the mountain or left at home completely. Most of the time, it was either a complete oversight or simply to lighten the load on what seemed to be a very short journey, only to find that it was desperately needed when things go south. A bottle of water, or trekking poles, or snacks, or a warm jacket, or a phone, or a space blanket. Once again, it's also a life lesson. Simply put, be prepared. Do your best to keep things you not only need physically within arm's reach, but also the things you need mentally and spiritually. Your prayer life, your Bible, coping techniques for emotional moments, a phone number of a trusted friend. Just be prepared. Emotional and spiritual crisis can strike when least expected. Finally, stay calm. The one thing that most people in survival stories do correct is that they control the panic. As their situation spirals out of control, they often find that they lean on their training and their experience and simply refuse to panic. So that too is a life lesson for us. Keep calm. Control the things you control and accept the things you don't as being out of your hands. When things feel out of control, simply make yourself slow down. Regulate your breathing. Move around. Make a note. Clear your mind. There are plenty of other lessons to learn as we face tough times. Real Survival Stories focuses on wild scenarios of physical survival that most of us will never face. But all of us will face spiritual and emotional crisis at some point in our lives. Have trusted people to lean on. Stay equipped for those moments. And stay calm. You increase your chances of successfully coming through difficult moments in life. And that is your Friday refresh.